Alright YouTube, welcome back to Sigma Engineering, and in today's video we're going to be learning about an AI tool called Stable Diffusion. This is used for image generation of all types, and there's several user interfaces or UIs you could use, such as Automatic 1111, Comfy UI, and you can use that with Stable Diffusion. It's open source, it's awesome, and a great tool, especially if you're a creator. So in this video today, I'm going to showcase Automatic 1111, how to get it set up, and some really nice plugins you can use with Automatic 1111 UI to make images, and I'll show you how to make the images and talk a bit about Stable Diffusion and how it works. So if you're not familiar with what Stable Diffusion is, it's from stability.ai. And there is a public release, and recently there has been an update where they have Stable Diffusion SDXL. We're at version 1.0 as of today, and you can see that their blog announcement is up here. Stable Diffusion is awesome, but the recent updates with SDXL are amazing. Basically, what you can do with this image generator is you can type in a prompt, and it will generate an image. You can also train models. You can also train LoRAs to be combined with models to get more of a photo you want from the image output. And if you're interested in how to train models, I'll do a future video on that as well. It's very intelligent. It can take a library of images, find likeness, uniqueness, pull that out into an image that you want to generate, which is also very, very cool. So you can see it's turning this shoe into a mountain, turning this cooling tower into a coffee pot of some sort. So, you know, to get started with XDXL, you can use this online. I am not doing this video on anything online. I believe in privacy, and I believe that it should be run local on a PC. That's just my preference. But you can run this online, and all the stuff to get started online is here for SDXL. And also, if you want to learn more about Stable Diffusion and the older models, you can also look on the Stability AI website, and you can log in and see the different models they have and play with them online. So what we're going to look at today for a user interface with Stable Diffusion is Automatic 1111. The GitHub is in the description below, and it's up on the screen now, and it is developed to basically take the Stable Diffusion model, make a UI for you where you can enter a prompt and generate an image. And of course, there is a bunch of settings in Automatic 1111, and we'll go over those settings as well in this video. So how to install Automatic 1111 and Stable Diffusion on your local PC. First and foremost, you kind of need a beefy PC to run Automatic 1111 and Stable Diffusion. Generating images, you're going to need a good video card. My recommendation is having a good video card with a lot of VRAM. And if you want to check your VRAM, you can just right-click on your taskbar, look at your task manager, go to Performance, and you can see your dedicated GPU memory on your PC. I'm running an RTX 4090, so I have 24 gigs of VRAM. I bought a 4090 specifically to do AI tasks, whether it be text generation, image generation, video generation, what have you. Two things you're going to want before you continue on with Stable Diffusion on your local PC. You're going to want to download Git, and I'll put a link in the description below to download Git. And you're also going to want Python 3.10. You can get later versions of Python. This one has worked for me with no errors. It's been great. So I'll put a link to Python version 3.10 below as well. For me, I just created a folder, and I'm going to call my folder Stable Diffusion. Now, I want to get in the command prompt, and I want to copy this GitHub, all the contents, to this folder. Now, you could download straight from GitHub. You could just click here and then click on download zip and download this repository straight onto your PC. I don't recommend doing it this way because it has a lot of challenges with updates in the future. If you want easy updates, it's best to open the command prompt in the file where you want to install Stable Diffusion. So I'm just going to click here in the Explorer bar. I'm going to type CMD. And then once I do that, it will automatically open the system command prompt in Windows, and it will already be in the folder I want to be in. Once you have those installed, it's time to download the GitHub repository. You could do it straight by downloading the zip file from GitHub. However, that leads to problems with updates. What I like to do is in my folder, which is called Stable Diffusion, I'm going to type CMD in the Explorer bar up top, and then it will automatically bring me to my folder. So I'm in the right destination, and I want to say git clone, and then I'm going to copy and paste this GitHub link, and I want to clone that GitHub repository in this folder. So now it's downloading automatic 1111, and now I can see the Stable Diffusion web UI within my Stable Diffusion folder. And everything I need for Stable Diffusion, at least in the UI sense, is now here. We will have to download our models for Stable Diffusion separately. And so how the models work is there's base Stable Diffusion models. So again, you can do text to image generation with those base models. And then folks have taken that base model, or one of those base models, and they've trained custom models on top of that. So if you're looking for a specific style, art form, manga, comic book, photorealism, all that is custom trained, and you can find those models online, and I'll show you where you can find those here in a minute. So back to the Stable Diffusion web UI folder. At this point, what you want to do is you're going to want to get some models. So if you look at the models folder here, you're going to see Stable Diffusion. And this is where we want to put our Stable Diffusion checkpoint. Checkpoints are models. So if those terms are used interchangeably. So if someone refers to a checkpoint, they're referring to a model and vice versa. But I guess the proper term is a checkpoint. And there's two different types of checkpoint files you can get, or model files. And one is called a pickle tensor, and one is called a safe tensor. The newer, modern, safer version of downloading checkpoints is to get safe tensor files. So it'll be modelx.safetensor. This prevents people from putting malicious software on your computer or hiding stuff in the models. So if you're looking at older models, they may be pickle tensors. So do be warned that there can be malicious software embedded in those models. So, do be vigilant when you're downloading models, and download models from proper sites like Civet AI or Hugging Face. So once you have Python installed, if you open your command prompt in Windows, and I just hit the Windows button, type in CMD, and then press enter, it's going to open the command prompt for me. If I type Python in here, it's going to tell me what version of Python I'm running. And I can see that I have version 3.10 or later, so I'm very happy with this. And I know that Python is installed correctly here. Now, once you install Git as well, this will enable you to clone the repositories from GitHub. So having Git on your PC, you run Git directly in your command prompt. So again, if I type Git, you can see the different actions you can use with Git. So I can see that Git has been installed as well. And then if I wanted to git clone a repository, I can just say git clone and then the link to the GitHub repository that I want to put on my PC. So when we're first going to download Stable Diffusion, the base model version 1.5, and it's on Hugging Face. I'll put a link in the description below. And you can find several different types of models, base models, and even user-generated models or checkpoints through Hugging Face. And if we're looking at the model card here, it's going to give a description of what Stable Diffusion is, how this model works, different GitHub repositories, model details, the usage licenses, etc. And if I go to files and versions, so once we see these files and versions, we're going to see some safe tensor files and also some pickle tensor files. They're labeled CKPT, checkpoint files, or safe tensors. And again, I'm going to download these safe tensor files because that's what I prefer. And later on, when you're downloading models, you can take two models you find in the web, or even more than two models, and you can combine those two models. So you can mesh them, blend them to make an even newer model that takes a bit of Model A and a bit of Model B and makes Model C, right? They need to be of the same type if you're mixing models. So once you start this journey, I definitely recommend on choosing safe tensors going forward because you're going to want the same type of files when you're blending different models. So I'm going to choose the version 1.5 pruned EMA only safe tensors file. This is for image generation. I'm also going to download this version 1.5 pruned safe tensors file. This is used for training new models. So later on in future videos, when we're training new models, we're going to want this as well. These are two base models for version 1.5, and it's a very popular model. Of course, SDXL has just come out in recent weeks, and that is also very popular. It's much larger and much more complicated to use, and you need a more robust computer system to train models with SDXL as of today. Again, I'm going to put it in the models folder, Stable Diffusion, and this is where I'm going to put those two models. I'm also going to go to Civet AI. I'm going to click on models. These are all the models that are the most popular, and the more I scroll down, the less popular the models. So for the models, I'm going to download two new for this one. So this looks like a cool model, and I'm going to see the model card on Civet AI. For this, I can see the base model used to train this model, so version 1.5. So this is not SDXL as of right now. And I can see different generations of this model as this went from the alpha phase to a beta phase, unstable and stable. So right now they're at beta 6. You can see how many downloads there are. You can see what type of model it is. You can see tags. And if you click here, you can see what type of model you're going to download, how large it is, and what type of model it is. So this is a safe tensor file, which is my preference. So I'm going to download this to new as well. It's a safe tensor file, and we can play with that in Stable Diffusion as well. And just fair warning, Civet AI has some not safe for work material on here. So as you're scrolling through this, if you want to see that type of material, you will have to create an account. But otherwise, stuff is somewhat safe for work on here, but just be careful anyway, even if you're not logged in. So once I have those models in there, I'm going to double click on the webui.bat file, and it's going to run that file, and it's going to start installing some stuff. It's going to do some stuff that, you know, hey, I'm starting for the first time. I'm going to download a few things. So it is going through that process now. So let's be patient as that is going through. All right. So it's been about 6 minutes or so here, and everything is installed now, and we can see that it's running on a local URL. So I could open the UI right now, but before I do that, I do want to show everyone how to update your Stable Diffusion web UI. Now, I don't like automatic updates because if I have plugins installed that are working nicely, stuff automatically updates. All of a sudden, my plugins are not working. That's a no-go for me. So what I like to do is I like to update when I want to update. Like, so SDXL just came out, automatic 11.11. Recently got the capability to run SDXL. So I'm going to type in CMD. I'm in my main Stable Diffusion Web UI folder. I'm going to say git pull. And when I do this, it's going to update everything in that folder, which is nice. So had I downloaded the zip file separately, I couldn't do this. Git pull. And it's going to say, hey, you're already up to date. You just installed it, dummy. I'm going to say, yes, thank you. But another thing you want to look at is when you run your web UI bat file. And so here is an error. This is actually really cool. That's saying, hey, you have Python 3.11, and it's only been tested with 3.10, version 3.10, which is why everyone is saying get Python 3.10. So it is giving me a warning here that it's probably going to have some issues. I currently don't have issues, but it's definitely a possibility. So you could downgrade. I could uninstall 3.11 if I wanted to. But let's move forward for now, and let's see if this is going to work without all of that. So once you're in here, it actually looks like it's installed version 1.5 for me. I guess that's a new feature with automatic 11.11, which is pretty cool. So if I go in the models folder, Stable Diffusion, look at that. It actually installed it for me, so I didn't even have to go to Hugging Face, which is absolutely amazing. So it comes out of the box ready to go, which is really cool. So here we are in the UI. Basically, up here we can choose a model. We only have one model so far. We can choose a sampling method that's going to run with our model. Most are pretty much similar, but depending on your sampling method, your generation could be faster, slower, and it could look a little different. You can see your sampling steps, and this is how many times off of the base image in this model it's going to run your prompt. So If you do no sampling steps, your image isn't going to look very good. You do too many, it's not going to look very good. So you want something between 20 and 30 steps, usually. It also has a restore faces function, which is pretty nice, which does exactly what it says, restores faces of people, characters, etc. And you can choose your width and height of the image you're going to generate. I should say that most Stable Diffusion version 1.5 models are trained on image sizes that are 512 by 512. So the larger the images get, that's fine, but they can only get so large. Obviously, I usually max out at 1024. If you're going to run SDXL, of course, the newer version, it can run and generate larger, more detailed images. But as of right now, I stick within the lower resolution areas. Right now, I'm going to keep a batch size of 1, so it's going to generate 1 image in 1 batch. The seed is a reference to the image that you're making. The CFG scale, if you just hover over that, you're going to get a tooltip. This is the classifier-free guidance scale. So it tells Stable Diffusion, how strongly the image should conform to the prompt. So lower the value, the more creative your results are going to be, kind of away from your prompt. Usually good generated images are in the 7 range. You can go a little lower, a little higher. Too high, too low. Again, you're going to get just crazy images that aren't going to look very good. But, I mean, just to test this out, I'm just going to type a cat. I actually don't even put a cat. I'm going to say cat. Garden background. Wearing sunglasses. Let's do a cartoon style. And let's see what it comes up with. So right now it's generating the image. I can see that in the command prompt it's generating the image here. And here is my cat. Garden background, wearing sunglasses, cartoon style. So it is as simple as that. And if I want to change the height, I can go to like 720. And when you change the height, Stable Diffusion is going to fill that height, so you're going to get something a little different. And now I have 2 cats. So I'm going to say 1 cat. And here we go. Here's our Pete the Cat clone in Stable Diffusion. Pretty awesome. And so the base model, it has some photorealism, has a bit of everything. If you want really specific models, again, Civet AI is your friend. And you can get really cool models here, and you can do photorealism, anime, what have you, cartoons, characters, pixel art, and even design stuff, product design. So let's take a moment, now that we've made our Pete the Cat clone, to talk about the seed value down here. If the seed is set at -1, that means it's going to be a random seed value. And if you change the seed to some random string of numbers, I can always bring it back to -1 by clicking this dice value here. Whenever an image is generated, if I look at the image info below, it tells you the time it took to make it, and it's going to give you a seed number. Now, this seed number, and this is kind of a high-level layperson point of view on what the seed value is. The seed value is a number that controls the randomness that is happening in the generation. So if I wanted to regenerate this image, I could by putting in that seed value. So now I have this, of course you have to have the same text prompt as well. So now that we have all these inputs, I'm going to hit generate. I have the same width and height. Here is our Pete Cat the clone again. Now that we have the same image again based on that seed value, I'm going to increase the batch size to 3. So it's going to run 1 batch of 3 images. And if I hit generate, it's going to take a little longer because now I'm running more images and I've got a bunch of screen recording stuff on right now as well. But now it's 3 versions of Pete the Cat, and it's based on or near the seed value. So you see this is 4.6, and we'll see that seed 4.6 here, and then we'll see 4.7 and 4.8. So again, that randomness where it takes the text prompt, makes an image, is dictated by that seed value. And if I go back to random, I'm going to get 3 very random cat images wearing sunglasses, cartoon style. So it's pulling from its database, and it's making images based on my prompt, based on what that model was trained on. And this is a good all-around model, but again, if you want something specific, Civet AI is for you, or Hugging Face to download those safe tensor checkpoint models. Now, one more thing with prompts and generating images. Negative prompts are the opposite of the prompt. So the stuff that you don't want to see in your image, you're going to put here. So if you don't want to see anything disfigured, bad quality, dogs. If I put cat here, I don't even know what it's going to do. It's going to go insane. And it's going to say, well, you told me not to put cats, but then you told me to put a cat, so let's just see what it does. Yeah, so a lot of empty space. We've confused the AI, obviously. But in terms of good negative prompts, there is no real rule of thumb here. If you search the internet, you can find some good negative prompts. I'll put one in the description and below as well, like a good starter negative prompt. But a lot of times I don't really have anything because I want to see just how creative Stable Diffusion can be. And then once I have an image, I take that seed value and I start putting the negative prompt in to see what kind of different images I can get. So there is an art to this randomness, I guess, so to speak, in generating images. And we'll see more of that here in a minute. Okay, so I've put a bunch of models in the models folder. So if I go to Stable Diffusion, I can see my base models here that I've downloaded. If I go to LoRA, I can see the LoRA models that I've downloaded. And how a LoRA works is it has a lot of information that is usually included in a base model, but it can modify and be combined with a model straight in Stable Diffusion. So a lot of LoRA files you'll find on Civet AI, they're like character models. So if I want a Wolverine from X-Men, if I want my model or my output to look like Wolverine, I can download a Wolverine LoRA model and combine it with a base model and then have some kind of picture output that looks like Wolverine, etc. And we'll look at LoRAs here in a minute. There's also hyper networks. This also changes the look and feel of a model. So there's also the VAE folder. You can download custom VAE files. These are what's known as variational autoencoders. They're usually built into the base models, and it helps as the image is generated. It generates a compressed image representation, and that VAE takes the compressed results and turns them into full-size images. So a lot of those models come with VAEs already, but you may want to apply a custom VAE, and this can give it styles as well. There's different styles of VAEs you can use, and you can find those on Civet AI as well. And there's also in the embeddings folder, so that's outside the models folder. If you go to the embeddings folder, you're going to find some models that are negative embeddings that once you use them, they give you a certain style as well. So when it comes to image generation, I can say that the most robust things you're going to need, obviously you need a base model, which is found in your Stable Diffusion folder. And if you want to modify with a certain style, character, etc., LoRAs are the way to go. And I think most people use LoRAs these days. However, you're going to find different types of models out there as well. And you can customize in different ways, mix and match ingredients to make the perfect image for you. So now that I've installed all the different models, I'm going to open the web UI bat file. Again, it's going to say, hey, your Python is too awesome, and that's okay. I'm going to see that it's running on a local URL. I'm going to open Stable Diffusion, and I'm going to see, hey, I have a ton of models now, which is pretty awesome. If I click this little Show Hide Extra Networks button here, it's going to load the textual inversion files I have. It's going to show the hyper networks I have. The different checkpoint files are model files, right? Most of these are safe tensors. And the different LoRA models I have. So if I'm looking for a certain character, like Fortnite, or if I want a pen sketch style, I can choose those models here. And so most of the models I have here are made for design. Some are made for you know, comic characters, anime, etc. So I've downloaded a variety of models here to do different things, architecture, and of course the Stable Diffusion base model is in here, but in my opinion, I don't ever use the base model. I don't know who uses it, but I usually use something on top of that base model for photorealism and other stuff. So I'm going to use this model here. It's going to load my model. And I'm going to pull from my prompt database. And I'm going to share my prompt database with you guys. It's going to be in the description below. And you can download that. And it's going to have some useful prompts that you can try out on your own with Stable Diffusion on your PC. And I'm going to put this random prompt in there. I'm going to click Generate. It's set at 512 by 512 right now. And we're going to get an output. I'm going to expand that to 720. Hit Generate again. And we're going to get a model output. And here is that output. Now, can I improve the face? Yes, I can do that in painting if I wanted to. I can try Restore Faces and see if that looks any better. I didn't keep the seed, so my bad. But if I hit Restore Faces, here we go. We have characters now. And we can get really neat outputs from these different models. If I want it more of an anime style, I can use anything ink. I can even keep the same seed. So if I want to try with the same seed, I can do that. And then it will do its thing. And we have a different style now. I'm going to try this as well. I'm going to say one girl city background. And then we get one girl city background. Now, with some of my interior design models, if I hit the little hammer and wrench icon, I can see the metadata for my models. Sometimes my models have keywords that activate different things. And that's especially true for LoRAs. If I'm looking at a character design LoRA, that's going to give me an output that looks like this. I'm going to see character sheet is a trigger word, which triggers that LoRA. I'm going to click that, and this activation text is going to be added to the prompt every time I want to add this LoRA to my prompt. So I'm going to save that. And instead of that city background stuff, I'm going to say one girl. I'm going to say fantasy style Lord of the Rings. And then I'm going to click on this. It's going to add that LoRA. And you're going to see there's a LoRA weight. The LoRA weight, it's usually best to keep it 0 to 1. However, you can go above 1. Although you may get some what's called image burn. Same thing happens if you combine too many LoRAs in an image as well. But basically, it's going to input some code into this model to get a different style output. So now that I have this character sheet, one girl fantasy style, let's see what it comes out with. Of course, I'm probably going to want a wider image to get more details there, but now I have a fantasy style output. I'm going to increase my batch size to 3. I turned Restore Faces off. Sampling steps is 20. I'm going to put that up as well. But I guarantee that base image is going to look a lot better now. Yeah, a little. Let's go to 30. Looking okay. And we can see that it has some image generated outputs. I'm going to increase this to 720. I'm going to increase this a little bit as well. And we're going to see some more detailed images pop out of here. We can see that it's given us a little bit more detailed character sheets. They just look very different. So depending on your width, height, CFG scale, seed, sampling method, restore faces on off, sampling steps, your image is going to look different. So it's always fun to play around with all these settings. And there are some extensions I'll show later which can make image grids for you and automatically play around with those settings for you in order to do that. So again, with character LoRAs, if I want this character, I'm going to leave it at 1. I'm just going to say one girl. I'm going to do a 520 by 720 image. I'm going to generate. And again, it's using this anime model, Anything Inc. It's going to input this code, which I can see the trigger words here. And one girl is going to trigger it, so I'm good there. And we can see that it's using that likeness of this person in this model. Now, if I want a different checkpoint with that same LoRA character, I can try this one. And we can see that this LoRA character, this LoRA, is now being used as an input with this model, with this text prompt, and of course no negative prompt at the moment. And then we get that character output. So now we can see that our character looks much like the character we downloaded from Civet AI. Now if I'm looking for using this model, which is going to make me some kind of landscape background, I'm going to add that. I'm going to say house with large sky in background, planets in sky, green grass, and then we can see we get some cool house and landscape images that pop up. And it uses that style along with the model style, and then you get some sweet outputs like this, and you can look through your different images. I love that image. That is just awesome. And you can even further modify these images. You can send it to image. I can see I'm in my image to image tab now, and I can change that planet if I wanted to. I can do some in paint, or I can do just an image to another image from this tab. But let's talk more about these different tabs in a future video. Again, this is just going to be focused on installing, downloading your different LoRas, checkpoints, hyper networks, textual inversions, etc., and getting automatic 1111 and stable diffusion up and going. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe for future videos like this on AI, image generation, etc. Thanks for watching. Good luck.